Hey, what's up, everybody? It's JayViper here. Gamergate 2 is rising its head again, and it's looking a lot like Gamergate 1 right now, where it's got access media journalism, we've got access content creators, all working with publishers. They have to meet certain criteria, and it's all designed so you hear the message that the publisher wants you to hear. And a huge shout out to Smash JT for putting this article together, because I was trying to work on it last night and I ran out of time and I got super busy, and then there it was this morning. So thank you, Smash, for this. We're gonna get to it right after you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
JayViper is awesome. He's so good looking. He's got the crowd in awe.
Dragon Age: The Veilguard reviews just exposed the ugly underbelly of Gamergate 2. So the reviews have been coming in pretty hot and heavy here for Veilguard, and they are glowing. Now, this is a game that we've been keeping an eye on for a while, and I especially have been really keeping an eye on this one, as many of you already know who are regular subscribers around here. There is very little saving grace for this game. The writing is poor, the character creator is minimal, the graphics are very strange, the designs of the characters are strange, the combat looks repetitive and basic. There really is nothing that's a standout for this game. It just looks like a hodgepodge mess. And I will say this, Melanie Mac made a great comparison yesterday to Hogwarts Legacy. So much looks like it was ripped from there and then dumbed down to make it simple and boring. It is a very interesting comparison, and I agree with her. So here's something that was noticed by some people. Nearly every review parrots the same phrase, a return to form, lavishing praise on BioWare and EA's latest release. So when you look at this, it does look like coordinated propaganda. It absolutely looks like it's like some kind of hit points that like EA or BioWare sent out to the reviewers, and they say, mention something like this or this or this, and a lot of them took the words for word and put them in there, return to form. There's several articles out there that state it. I even read one that stated it like 4 times throughout the article. They could not stop saying return to form. It was ridiculous. So Grums on Twitter pointed this out, that we're seeing in real time a staggering manipulation of review scores and narratives, a trend disturbingly being amplified by the consolidated ownership of a major gaming media outlets under a few select entities. We'll get into that in a little bit, but who actually owns these review outlets? It basically funnels up to one single entity. So it looks like they were very selective with the review copies, and they actually targeted reviewers. Same thing with content creators. They went and they handpicked people who were going to handle that, and they gave them this game well in advance. I mean, they had this game for weeks. It was a very long time, and they've been able to record content, but even then, pre-release, you don't see it quite like this heavy-handed so much. But pre-release, they were only allowed to show so much, spoiler-free, etc. So what these content creators have been doing since basically they've been allowed to upload on October 28th is releasing advertisements to us. So they've been pouring their love out to it, talking about it, showing what they can show, which is very minimal amounts of the game, and they have been giving us advertisements. Only a few people have actually stepped away from that and actually warned people like us, the gamers, that the game isn't very good at all, but they are clear when they say how bad it is, how entitled the game is, and how it basically talks down to you and pushes the narratives at you. On top of that, the writing, again, I've said it before, the writing is awful. Everything we saw before, it looked really bad. It is terrible throughout. The romance options are silly, they're childish, and the combat becomes so bad and boring and the same throughout the game that reviewers who were talking to each other were lowering the difficulty down to easy so they could just get through the combat, because all the combat difficulty does is create them to be more spongy and just take more damage, and you just deal with these fights forever and you just want them to end. That is alarming, but this is a lot of what I said it looked like when I saw the gameplay before, that the gameplay looks bad and sameish, and sure enough, looks like the entire game is a lot of the exact same combat again and again. So YouTuber Fextra accused BioWare of selectively distributing review codes to ensure higher ratings for their latest game, which I'm sure they did. I watched this video by Fextra. This is what's interesting about access journalism or access content creators and their relationship with publishers and developers. So we know that access journalism and content creation exists, but there's 2 sides to that coin, right? So when someone expects to get a key and they've been dealing with someone, but they've had a little bit of negativity given to it. Not a lot. Fetch Your Life was still very nice, but he said there was things he didn't like, and that rubbed BioWare the wrong way. There is no way that Fetch Your Life did not earn a key, but he didn't get one because of some negativity that he said about the game. This is 100% EA and BioWare selectively choosing who's going to get it so it can look as glowing as possible. So he said, just think about this for a second. If you're on the EA end and you're trying to manipulate review scores because you want high review scores, what are you going to do? You're going to research, press, and content creators and what they usually give the game score-wise to give you a general idea of how they're going to review your game. That is one thing with Fetch Your Life that they do, is they generally don't rate 9s or 10s. It's usually 7 or 8 for a very good game because there's always room for improvement. Dragon Age doesn't want to see that, of course, so he doesn't get a key for that again. The two sides of the coin that I was talking about, right? So you have the one side of the coin with access creators, and that is they give glowing praise, they get codes, they get access to the game, to the developers, to future games, etc. And they could even get shout outs on social media. That's the access side for that. But the other side of that coin is what Fetch Your Life did, which is he didn't get a code, so then he dropped the hammer with a video that absolutely went viral, and everyone's seen this thing and they can see what EA is doing, and it's clear as day that they absolutely are doing this. Now, do I think the video is a little bit of whining, like, oh, I should have gotten a code, I feel like I should have got a code? Sure, but he also should have gotten a code, okay? That is absolutely true. But at the same time, the access goes both ways, right? And the way that this relationship is between creators, developers, and publishers is absolutely a toxic one, which is why I always tell you guys, do not listen to the people who give glowing praise to a game before release, especially when it doesn't match what your eyes are telling you. Look at it, decide for yourself, don't listen to them, and if they are throwing, heaping, glowing, loving praise on something that ends up being a turd, you know right away who you can trust, and you know to cut them out immediately. So let's talk about the return to form phrase that we've been seeing. John Epler, return to form directive and review repetition. Now, when you see something repetitive throughout articles, what does that remind you of? Does it remind you of this?
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things they aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Because that is frightening, but true. But this is what happens when you have a conglomerate up front and you have key phrases that are pushed down. You see repetition because people will read things word for word and they won't really get off track. This absolutely has that kind of vibe, and it is absolutely horrible. I hate it. So adding fuel to the fire, the phrase return to form repeatedly appears in reviews across major gaming publications. Over on Blue Sky, because John Epler ran over there because he's a little bitch, narrative director of the Veilguard set this exact phrase up as a goal when he rejoined BioWare after working on Anthem. In his words, so 5 years ago when I first rejoined the project as narrative director after hiatus on Anthem, I was asked my goals for the project. And one of the ones I put was, I want to see the phrase, a triumphant return to form for BioWare and at least one review. Excited to finally mark that goal done. He just told on himself. He absolutely did. If you think for 1 second that John didn't go and have this inserted into the points they wanted done so he could see it appear, you're absolutely lying to yourself. This is what happened. Absolutely 100%. And now, how does this happen from the up down? Well, we're going to get to that. So Epler's comment does expose their planned PR campaign, one where the narratives are planted and echoed by compliant media. So this has spread across platforms. We've seen it, and it's actually really is a disturbing thing to see because you are being played. My friends, they're playing with you, and they think that you don't notice, or that I don't notice, or that people don't notice. Well, we've noticed, and I bet they're going to say it's just a coincidence. But here they are, Checkpoint Gaming, 100 Return to form. Triumphant return to form, even. Interesting. What does John say here? Triumphant return to form. PlayStation Universe. Return to form. Digital Trends. Or return to form. IGN Portugal. Or return to form. Pure Xbox. Triumphant return to form.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Hello, he put these in there as a directive, and these people could not help but write it. It absolutely happened, folks. This isn't being made up. It happened. They're telling them what to say. When you give us your glowing praise, please put in something about return to form or this or this or this. I'm sure if we looked harder, there's other repetitions too, but this one sticks out like a sore thumb. So how does it trickle on down? How does this happen? Well, let's talk about Ziff Davis and its reach. Ziff Davis Media is a gigantic conglomerate. It controls a huge amount of gaming journalism. We're talking about Eurogamer, Extreme Tech, Games Industry, IGN, PC Mag, Rock Paper Shotgun, VG247. And it keeps on going because IGN also owns Outside Xbox, Digital Foundry, Hookshot, and controls Nintendo Life, Push Square, Pure Xbox, and Time Extension. And there's more than this, but these are the ones that are immediately noticeable. I mean, you can see how much control Ziff Davis Media has. So when something happens, right, it's not like each one of these are told by EA, oh, do this or this. No, EA talks to Ziff Davis Media. Okay, and they say, we want people to talk about this and say these things. And then Ziff Davis Media goes right to all its conglomerates, and they follow suit. Now, as Smash points out, there's really only 2 or 3 real controlling voices in gaming journalism. Despite the abundance of brand names and the lots of places that you can go, they're really all coming from the same couple places. And we see this in regular media too. I mean, Disney, Fox, these places own tons of stuff, right? And this is what happens, and they all end up parroting the same or similar things. So by placing nearly identical articles across their network of sites, it creates the illusion of independence, but there's no independence there because it's all a controlling monopoly. And we saw this with Wukong. So obviously Ziff Davis Media has something to do with that. They didn't like what they saw, and they told everyone, hey, chill out with Wukong. Don't put it up for Game of the Year. Don't give it a great score. Give it a good score, but not a 9 or a 10. We saw that repeated, okay? And now it's absent from Game of the Year. It only has an 8, and this thing should be kicking Veilguard's ass for Game of the Year, and you know for a fact they're going to nominate Veilguard, and they're going to walk that little bitch right up the red carpet and give them their little trophy that they did not earn. Which is so funny, too, because I recently had someone tell me that Inquisition was not the worst Dragon Age so far, which I absolutely believe it is. I didn't like it very much. That one actually put me to sleep. I couldn't finish it, and I finished the others with no problem multiple times. I didn't like it. But what was the reason for it being the best and not being the worst? Because it won Game of the Year. My friends, Game of the Year means nothing anymore. It's lost. It matters when gamers actually get to vote and put the games they want into position to win and then get to vote on the winner. It doesn't matter when you have companies picking and choosing and telling you who the winner is and you get no say. Those things don't matter. Especially when you see games that belong on there that don't even get a nomination. Which brings us to Grums on Twitter. We need to talk about captured gaming journalism and how corrupt it's become. Dragon Age Veilguard is astroturfing articles and reviews now, parroting the lead narrative designer of the game. Look at these reviews and articles that repeat the same phrase and ask yourself what's going on. And this is where he gets into what we just talked about, where they're parroting the same phrases. So a lot of this came from Grums and other people. Huge shout out to them for finding this stuff out. It's incredible to know. But the thing is that we're finding out that BioWare or EA is going back and they are absolutely knocking out low review scores, taking away people's voices. They're DMCAing people all over the place. And they're not letting us hear the truth and what's going on. It's actually very hard to get the truth out right now because they're going in X, they're DMCAing people, they're going on YouTube, they're taking out videos. They don't want you to hear the truth. Here's another little dirty trick that I noticed. You cannot preload Veilguard if you buy it on Steam. You cannot preload it if you buy it on the EA app on PC. There's no preloading on PC at all. You can preload on Xbox. You can preload on PlayStation. Now you're like, Jay, why does that matter? Like, that's stupid. That means nothing. No, it isn't nothing because here's why you can't preload it on PC. EA Play Pro is why you can't preload it on PC. What EA Play Pro is is it allows you to pay $18 for 1 month to actually just play any game you want on EA. That includes Veilguard. So here's the thing. You take the day off, you're like, I'm going to play the game, but then you go ahead on your PC and you're like, let me go ahead and preload this thing so it's ready to go. But oh wait, you can't even start downloading it until 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on October 31st. Well, that's weird because I can preload on Xbox. Okay, well, let me go get on my Xbox and get on EA Play Pro over there, and I can go ahead and download it. Oh, no, you can't. Know why? Because there is no EA Play Pro on consoles. So then you come back to your PC and you're like, well, damn, I only have so much time. It doesn't release till noon, and I'm going to have to wait for it to download. I can't play right away. So what you might do? You might go and buy it on your PlayStation or your Xbox, and you're going to go preload it. Meanwhile, you're also out $18 over here on EA Play Pro. There's no real reason for them to not allow you to preload on their own app except to control you and to try to get you to purchase it on a console so you have to pay full price. Because this is the only way where you can pay less. And this is something that they absolutely did. For sure. And another thing that they didn't do, that they usually do for their big releases, is if you own EA Play Pro, is you can play early. Guess what you can't do for Veilguard? You can't even play early. You have to wait for release. Because if they let you play early, guess what you could then do? Upload content and show people what's in the game before the game releases. When I tell you that EA has been extremely busy manipulating every bit of media and its own application that it can, believe me when I tell you, they are being absolutely as manipulative as possible. Now, why would you ever have to do that when you have a good game in your hands and you want people to have it and play it? You don't have to do that. If it's a great game, then you put it on EA Play Pro early so they can play 3 days early for 10 hours, and you'll say, let them see the content, let people get excited. But they don't want you to see anything. They don't want you to see how bad the game is. They don't want you to see all the pronouns shit that they put in there, because it's throughout. You can make your character trans, your Tash is non-binary, and she comes out and says it. They literally use the words trans and non-binary in the game instead of coming up with proper RPG elements to use it. And this is in a Kunari world where they absolutely would have another word for non-binary. Okay? There's no excuse except laziness and to push their own agenda, which absolutely is what Corin Bush has been doing this entire time, is getting his agenda into this game as much as possible. He did it over in The Sims, and he's taking this exact same thing and making it look like shit, look like The Sims, look like an androgynous piece of garbage, and that is exactly what Corin Bush wants you to eat, is a little fucking spoon of shit that he made, and he's gonna trick you into eating it. And that is exactly what EA wants you to do as well, is get fooled into eating this giant pile of sloppy shit that they made. And this game has no right having 9s, has no right having 10s, and the people playing it, they know it. And I highly suggest holding them accountable. Do not buy this game. I'm going to play this game as soon as it releases on this channel. I want to show you every bit of it. I'm not going to hold anything back. This game looks like shit. It's shit. And if it needs to change my mind, then it needs to change my mind. But you know what? I can tell by looking at it, it's not going to change my mind. This game is garbage, and it has no right being in any conversation of Game of the Year. It has no right being claimed as a return to form. This is Andromeda all over again. And if you agree, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so I can see you on the next one. Love you, and peace. Bye, everybody.
He's owning every